late great R&B singer Aaliyah once said, "Age ain't nothing but a number." There are some individuals who never let age, qualification, or exposure get in the way of their lofty dreams. My name is Tandi, and welcome to Meet the CEO Zimbabwe. Our guest today is 30-year-old Samuel Dimairo. Samuel, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much, Tandi. It's a pleasure to be part of this program.
Samuel, I was always convinced that your surname is something exotic. What exactly does it mean?
So Dimairo means people that take long strides. So in our clan, they are tall people. So we got the surname Dimairo because, the people are tall and wano Dimaira. Dimaira, or the meaning of Dimaira is taking long strides in Shona.
And have you seen that be the story of your life?
Now that you've mentioned it, I've never thought of it that way, but it's an interesting perspective and way of looking at it. And yeah, I certainly say that's one of the things that drives me, taking long strides. Yeah.
You are, at 30 years old, the group chief executive of the Aura group of companies. Tell me a bit more about your companies.
Okay, so Aura Group is, I'll say, a small to medium-sized company. Throughout all our companies, we employ about 120 people. And Aura Group is into the business of IT, hardware and software projects. We are into manufacturing as well. We have an operation that's in the capital market space, doing clearing and settlement of financial securities traded on the stock markets. We also into property investments and development. Infrastructure project development, and power generation.
And you've done all this in your short 30 years of existence.
Yes, precisely. Yeah.
How have you managed to fit so many things into this short time frame? Okay,
so in the past, I traditionally started off in the technology space and, eventually grew from there. But that was more like the launch pad. I'm clueless when it comes to IT, but I just learned it by osmosis. I was that business guy that was selling, and when you're selling, you have to know what you're selling, and you end up being technical. But I think as time went on and as I grew, I saw that, IT had limited, you can only grow to a certain point in a certain market. And I've always viewed myself as a business person, and said I'll chase an opportunity that presents itself that can make money. So over time, growing into having all these things happening at the same time, I've managed to achieve this through working with teams. And it may sound like a lot on its own. Yes, it's a lot. But when you have the right people, the right partners, the right teams around you, then it makes it so much easier. Yeah.
You make it sound easy at this stage, but let's rewind and find out, where exactly were you born?
Okay, I was born in Harare. Yeah, Harare, 24 September 1990.
1990.
Yes.
So you've just turned 30.
Just turned 30 last month. Yeah.
Okay, last month.
Yeah.
And you grew up with siblings. Where did you grow up? Here in Harare?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Harare. I've got 4 siblings, 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. I'm the last born of them. And we grew up here in Harare, in Glenlon. But back then, the Glenlon that it was still undeveloped. Now it's a leafy suburb, but back then it was still undeveloped. Picture that place where there's land and then, people buy stands there and people are slowly start going to there to build their houses and stuff like that. But, the first 10 years of my life, and I'm not shy to say this because I hope it also demonstrates to the viewers of this program that it doesn't matter where you come from, what your background is, but you can rise up and do amazing things. The first 10 years of my life, with my family, we grew up in a 3-roomed wooden shack, 7 of us. That was the first 10 years of my life. And we...
It must have been a cramped existence.
Yeah, it was.
Sharing everything with your siblings.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was. And, we were classified, you know, at the lower end of the food chain in society. And, you know, despite everything that happened, I think my parents did the best they could under the circumstances that we raised. And, you know, my late mother always said that she always used to hold up these three fingers and say, this is us, the small finger. Mm-hmm. This other finger, that's you. And this other finger is your children. So there must always be progression as the generations go by. So they did the best they could under the circumstances, and they created a foundation and a basis for us to succeed in life. All me and my siblings. I think when you look at my siblings, all of them have done well in their different callings. And my parents made sure we got the best education. We got exposed to the best environment possible we could mentally. If they wanted, would not have had to live in a wooden shack and probably stayed in somewhere more comfortable. But believe you me or not, whilst we were staying in that wooden shack, we went to the Group A schools, all of us. They made sure we went to good schools and we got a good education. And, you know, I think it took a lot of personal sacrifice to make sure that they set us up and did the best they could for us. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What kind of a pupil or student were you in primary and secondary school?
I was in the A class both in primary and secondary school, but I don't think I was superbly intelligent. You know, in primary school, on a few occasions, I managed to come first in my class. Secondary school, I didn't. But in my class, I'll probably play around in the top 10 of, you know, in terms of performance. I was particularly very good with math, especially in primary school. I remember when the time would come for subject prizes, you know, everybody would debate who's getting which prize for which subject. But math, there was no argument. Everyone knew it was mine. Yeah.
Staked your place.
Exactly. Yeah.
And,
that was my strength.
So you were very studious, loved maths,
Mm-hmm.
went all the way up to A level?
No, I dropped out of school after O level when I was 17 years old. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I didn't go for A level.
Mm-hmm. Where was that?
I started working during my high school holidays. So instead of spending my time, you know, socializing and doing what every other teenager was doing, I took the time to firstly read and equip myself with knowledge. And then secondly, when I read and equipped myself with knowledge, one of the things that I found useful was to go and work for free. Because when you go and work for free, nobody will say no. And you open up opportunities for you to learn. So I started working for free for an audit and accounting firm that belonged to a family friend. And it's from working there, you know, I did accounts preparation for sports clubs. We did audits, for different companies. I would participate in those teams, tax accounts, company registrations, and things like that. So
this is at the age of 17, 15?
About 14, 15 years old.
15 years old.
Yes, yeah. So I was already doing that. So I then learned through working that, I wanted to pursue accounting, an accounting qualification. And I then figured there was a way for me to start chartered accountancy after my O-levels. And I didn't necessarily have to go to A-level. But then at the same time, I was also interested in business. The decision that made me drop out was that I was going to pursue my chartered accountancy. And I asked my parents a question to say, hey, when I'm a chartered accountant, who will ask me for my A-level certificate? And the answer was nobody. So that was my ticket out from high school. But then at the same time, it also gave me the flexibility to focus on building business at the same time.
It sounds like your parents were very instrumental in your success, in the sense that they gave you the latitude to explore and to try out new things and to pursue your dreams and your vision. Tell me about your relationship with your parents.
I have a very good relationship with my parents. I had a very good relationship with my parents growing up. and continue to have a very good relationship with them. My mother passed away just this past July, so it's quite recent. But my father gave me books to read from the time I was 14 years old. And I think it's in reading these books that equip me with knowledge and information. You know, I knew what being poor was like when I was growing up, so I certainly didn't want to be poor, and I wanted to make money. But it's in reading books that I then learned that, you know, money is not an objective to chase in life. When you chase a purpose, when you seek to solve people's problems, money becomes a natural consequence. So money is not the thing to chase, but causes are the things to chase. And in so doing that, I started to trade on the stock market when I was 15 years old, right? I was still too...
You bought stock?
Yes. I bought and sold stock.
How did you know which stock to buy and which to invest in?
Well, I taught myself, and I went, after school, I would go sit down with stockbrokers, talk to them, ask them, understand how the market worked, you know, look for reading material and those company handbooks. That's what I'll do. So that's how I learned how to trade and invest. At that time, I was still too young to open a brokerage account. So I used my mother's ID to open a bank, you know, a brokerage account. Then I theoretically was trading under her name, although it was me, but it was my mom's name on the on the share certificates. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And did you make much money? Did you take?
I made money.
Wow.
I made money from the time I was 15 years old. I didn't need to ask my parents for pocket money. I'll just make it. Yeah, I'll just make pocket money from trading. In fact, I was so successful that, you know, when you're making money, people can see it around you, right? So my friends at school saw it, and
Were you driving a car? Or
no, I
just
wasn't
the
driving a car.
clothes, or just the shoes?
I think maybe it's, you know, what I could spend on. And I also used to talk about it because I always felt that, you know, if you find something, I've always been a firm believer, if you find something that can add value to people's lives, I always believe in sharing and not keeping it to myself. So I used to tell them, hey guys, you know, I'm making money, I'm trading stocks, and this is what I'm doing and whatever. They didn't understand what I was doing, but they were prepared to give me money. And then I'll trade on their behalf.
Okay.
Then we'll split the profits 50-50. But the condition was that if I lost money, then they wouldn't come asking me for their money, because they had to understand that it's a possibility you could lose money. But fortunately, I never lost anyone's money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your hustle in secondary school?
Yes, in high school, yeah.
Wow, that's fascinating. So did you have any specific mentor or teacher during that phase who you say somebody whom you looked up to, whom you want to emulate, or it was just different people who were inspiring your growth in your career?
Okay. So at that age, I think it's, you know, you'd always look at the traditional successful people within Zimbabwe and, you know, beyond. I used to have great admiration for lots of local businessmen, some of them including Strive Masiwa, Shingim Tasa. And because I was buying and selling shares, I could go to I would go to annual general meetings of companies and just sit there and listen
and
in.
be the youngest one in the
Exactly.
room.
Yeah, I literally was the youngest one in the room. And, you know, listen to them, you know, having the annual general meetings. It was quite interesting. So I used to look up to a lot of local business people, and the Shingim Nyezas, you know, were running African Sun at that time. And then obviously internationally, there's the obvious Bill Gateses, Richard Bransons, and people like that. And also even Robert Kiyosaki. So initially, I sort of got mentorship like remotely through these people, reading their material and learning, you know, from a distance. And then I got, you know, my first formal mentor, maybe about 15 years old. Because one thing I learned, if you want to be a businessman, or any successful businessman, you know, you're asking me just now, you know, there are so many things going on, how do you manage? And, you know, a successful business person surrounds themselves with the right people. So I decided from an early age I needed to start surrounding myself with the right people. So one of them was a partner in a law firm. So I figured I already had accounting and financial skills. So I needed an accountant. I needed like a strategic mentor. I needed, maybe at least a lawyer and a strategic mentor. At least if I had those, the rest could be loosely engaging mentors which are not very active. So I got one of my classmates, his brother was a partner in a law firm, and he started mentoring me from the time I was 15 years old. Then I got my next mentor when I was 17, a strategic mentor. This is from a gentleman, his name is Lakson Zembe, business strategist, who's done lots of strategy work in the financial sector in Zimbabwe. And then my legal mentor was Andrew Mugandiwa. Those were like the two main, mentors I had who I would bounce ideas off and talk to and get guidance from that age of 15, 16.
And how did you convince them to mentor you? Because some people might say those are people who are very busy with their schedule. You have to sell yourself to them as well, to invest time in you. How did you do that?
I think one of the things that was important was, I think even for me where I sit, I'm now even mentoring a lot of people. And one thing that's important about a mentor-mentee relationship is having a mentee who is hungry for success, right? They're already hungry for success on their own, and all they need from you is guidance and to point them in the right direction. And when I mean hungry for success, you are not waiting to be spoon-fed. You are taking initiative. You are not asking them questions or for information that you cannot find, that you yourself can find on your own. So, and I think also, if you look at people at that high level, they like solving problems. So if you bring complex problems to them at their level, then it gives you, it also gives them the excitement to work with you. So for me, I learned early on that the energy you spend doing something small is the same amount of energy you'll spend if you pursue a big and daring objective. So if the energy is the same, you may as well chase something bigger, which has a bigger reward and bigger impact. And so I decided to aim big. And I said, if I'm aiming big, then I've got to deal with big shots. Right. And, when I went to them aiming at something big enough, they said, look, if they'll also be, it's something they could be proud of, looking at back to say, I was involved in working with this young man, set up this, big enterprise.
Samuel, tell me a bit about your experience with the Forbes magazine.
Right.
You were given an accolade as one of the under 30 young people in Africa to watch. How old were you at that age?
28 years old.
You're 28?
Yes.
How did that make you feel?
To be honest, I didn't feel very ecstatic about it. You see, the way I've always operated, I prefer letting my work speak for itself and not talk. And I think what Forbes recognized me for mainly was, the success we achieved when we set up Chengetedza Depository Company, which is Zimbabwe's first central securities depository for the capital markets industry, in charge of custody, electronic custody and settlement of financial securities. So in Chengetedza, that was my flagship project that I started. So the story being, as I was trading on the stock market, it was manual. I saw an idea to automate it, and the automation is what culminated in Chengetedza. And just to give you some idea on the size of Chengetedza, at its peak, the securities deposits were worth $10 billion US. And we've done, I think, in excess of $5 billion US in transaction settlement. And it took us 7 years from 2008 to about 2014 to open doors. It was a very long, that's another story on its own that I could write a book.
Were you working on your own with this or with a team? with some of your mentors?
So I was working with a team. My mentors were involved. I was working with a team. I had partners in that project, but it's something that I initiated and, people joined on the way, right? So that was the flagship project that made me successful. Or rather, not successful, popular.
It opened other doors for you.
It opened other doors. So I'd won many local and international awards before Forbes. And when Forbes came, it was just another thing, and, normally the irony of it is that I always wished, I wish one day I'll be in Forbes. I hope one day I'll be in Forbes magazine. And I didn't know that you can actually apply to be on the 30 under 30 list. So I never applied. And then someone from Forbes looked for me. So the interesting thing about that list, I'm one of the few, if not the only one, where Forbes actually looked for me to say, hey, we've heard about you and we've heard this. Please send us some information for us to verify that this is correct. And the moment they verified that what they had was correct, then they put me on that list. So I never applied to be on that list. They came looking for me. So when it happened, I was just like, it's something else. It's another award and recognition. But what amazed me was the power that brand has, because I think it just blew me out of the water and I became this very popular person. And now when I'm traveling somewhere, I get on the plane, I'm guaranteed, especially when I'm flying out of Harare, I'm guaranteed to have people that I have no idea who they are greeting me by name. The other day I was in Victoria Falls and then I was greeted by name by someone. Then they're like, oh, I saw you in the Forbes magazine. And yeah, it was quite interesting how, it just made me very known around. But it was interesting. It was interesting. Yeah.
Any parting shot you might have to our viewers? We have some young people who are looking and saying, one day I want to be like someone. Any last piece of advice that you might want to add?
Yeah, so what I would say is pick something big that you focus on and stick to it over a long period of time. It doesn't matter how slow your progress is, but as long as you build slowly over time, you will be able to achieve great goals and objectives. People look at me today, I'm 30 years old, yes, I'm young, but I'm 15, 16 years in the making, right? You have to know where you're going. You can't leave that to chance. You have to know where you're going and you've got to decide, crudely put, what do you want people to say about you when you die? What do you want people to say at your funeral? And then work backwards to say, for me to achieve this, what do I need to start working on? Another thing that's important is that you need to act in as much as you set goals, have a vision, target big things. You have to act daily. And as you act daily, you must not give up. As long as it can still be done, it's not over until it's over. So keep trying and trying. In life, there's never failure. There's just success and learning. And as long as you decide to pick the lessons from the failures and apply them in becoming a better person the next day, success will be just a matter of when and not a matter of if. Yeah.
Dream big or go home. And passion is a fuel that will allow you to achieve your dreams in the long run. This has been another exciting episode with our guest for today. Until we meet next time, have a good day.